Welcome, Namaste. My name is Shashi, and today I would like to share the theory and the background of Ayurveda with you. Ayurveda means science of life. Ayu is life, Veda is the big compilation of sciences and wisdom of life that we have in India. It's one of the oldest texts that is still preserved here. The Vedas talk about many different things like meteorology, the yoga as well, Ayurveda, how to make agriculture, how is astronomy as well, astrology, many different disciplines. And so one of these disciplines is the science of life and the science of living, of the living body itself. Ayurveda looks at a whole life as a compilation and different combination of the elements. So we have the 5 major elements, right? We have earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And so Ayurveda says everything that exists is together in a different ratio of these elements, and according to how these elements are combined with each other, we have different interactions and different effects on life. And this is very simple. When we look like, okay, we have fire and water coming together, or we have wind or air and water coming together. There's a very different effect happening. The one creates heat and the water is evaporating, whereas with the other one, we just have big waves that are happening and a lot of movement that is coming there. So with this, Ayurveda was like, okay, you have these 5 elements, they all have different core qualities, and then they reflect in groups in our body and in life. And these groups are called Doshas. These are the different constitutions. And everything in life has these constitutions. Such as the outside is made of the 5 elements, so is my inside is a body made of the 5 elements, so is food made of the 5 elements. These 5 doshas are brought together with earth and water, water and fire, and then air and ether. So water and earth, water and fire, air and ether. The water and earth element or group constitution is called Kapha dosha. Kapha dosha, written as Kappadosha and often pronounced as Kappadosha, but it's Kapha dosha. Water and fire is called Pitadosha. Pitadosha. Air and ether is called Vata dosha. Vata dosha. So, and everything in life is a different combination of these doshas, and I put them in groups because they have a very strong interaction with each other. Before we go deeper into the doshas, I want to explain you a little bit like what are the principles of Ayurveda and how is Ayurveda working. So Ayurveda is working mostly by anchoring this core thought that you are a healthy being, and anything else is unnatural. Whereas in the Western world, we quickly think we have to prevent disease and we have to work on the symptoms, and we just accept that we have a certain amount of disease happening and that is natural and we just learn to live with that. Ayurveda truly believes and teaches that you are a very healthy being and you have all the rights in the world to live in this complete 100% healthfulness within yourself. So Ayurveda is working with the removal of disease, coming back to a very natural, blissful, easeful state of living. And here I really love this English word, disease. Because what does disease mean? When we take that word, look at it, it's dis-ease. Anything that is not easeful is already in disease. And this is very alien to the Western mindset, where it's like, no pain, no gain, for example, which is a very common expression. And so Ayurveda is really like, no, we have to remove the dis-ease, and that expressed positively, we have to cultivate easefulness in our life. So for the first step, it's not adding on, we have these trends, right, to add on top, I'm doing this, and so I have to add this extra supplement, I have to add this extra add-on, and I have to add here some exercise and there some exercise. Ayurveda is like, whoa, no, let's stop that for a moment and just have a look. What are you doing? How are you doing things? And what of the things can actually be removed? Let's, before we add some extra things, even if they're healthy and beneficial, first of all, how can we take away the things that are not benefiting you? How can we remove all the unnecessary things to create more spaciousness, more tranquility in your life? Because from this spaciousness, from this tranquility, once we learned to enjoy the tranquility, to enjoy the nothingness, to enjoy the boredom, so to say, once we saw what a great privilege it is to have this state of mind, to have this state of life, then easefulness naturally is arising, and dis-ease is just falling off. This is because of our nervous system. There's two parts in our autonomous nervous system. It's the sympathetic, the parasympathetic nervous system. Or it's the stress, the fight and flight, or the rest and digest nervous system. Both of them are equally valid and important in our life. When we are too much in one without the other, we either suffer from burnout or from depression. So we really need both. We can't just be resting and digesting. We also need to cultivate energy to collect what we want to digest and to build where we want to rest, right? So both of them are equally valid and necessary, but we tend to push ourselves too much into one or the other direction. And in a modern world, which is very hectic, stressful, we are under constant influence of entertainment. This is all where we need digestion. Like, it's not only food we digest and process, it's information, it's whatever we perceive we have to digest. And so even when we think we're resting, we're still consuming, we're just still taking in material and content that we need to process. So we're actually staying partially always in this fight and flight response instead of really surrendering into this rest and digest. And so by removing what is unnecessary, removing what is not beneficial in your life, it's the undoing instead of even more doing. We learn to activate again this rest and digest part of our body, and then we can naturally heal. And with this, we're activating the self-healing properties of the body. This is because when we're in the fight and flight response, all blood comes into our limbs. Because we have to fight or flight, so we need it to punch, right, or to run, so we need it in the legs and arms. There's not much blood happening in the torso. Whereas in the rest and digest, all the blood comes into the torso to either digest the food, to have the digestive system active, or when your body is empty, when your digestive system is empty, like at night, when you're not eating too late, when you're eating early enough in time, and then you go to sleep, then we have the blood there for the rejuvenation and regeneration of your internal organs. This is also why we sleep, when we sleep, have cold feet sometimes. Because we're in this rest and digest response and all the blood is in the torso. And so by learning that, this is actually the true science of Ayurveda. It's the undoing of what's unnecessary. And by learning that, our body naturally steps into the state of health instead of fighting the symptoms and just living and preventing disease. It's supporting your own inner health. Now, coming back to the doshas. Each and every one of us has a different combination of the doshas. Some have a kapha, that means earth-water predominance. Some have a pitta, water-fire predominance. Others have a vata, air-ether predominance. There is an ideal state that's called tridosha. Tridosha is when you're to 33.3% kapha, pitta, and vata. Then you have the perfect conditions and the best, most beneficial conditions for a healthful living in a healthful body. But our constitution, our personal constitution, is determined at the exact moment of conception, depending on the qualities of your parents. So the qualities of the tissues that your parents and the body of your parents has in that moment determines your inner constitution. And from that moment on, it's either supported in its natural state or it's altered through many different things. Diet, lifestyle, tendencies, so many things. These constitutions have an effect on our body, they have an effect on our mind, and through this onto our emotional world, and through this we think onto our personality, because at the end the personality is a combination of how we express what is happening within. Though Tridosha, the equal amount of each of these aspects being present in our body is the ideal frame for unhealthy living, we do not aim to create that. Once you have your constitution, you aim to stay in that constitution and to keep your constitution balanced. And that's it. All we can do for a Tridosha is to work on conscious conception for your offsprings later on. But with your life, it's kind of done, you know? You just can like support it at the way it is. So this natural state and then this altered state. And here we come into working very specifically, like, okay, maybe you have a strong earth constitution, but you have air in imbalance. Then you have to work to balance that air element, and then naturally the strength of your earth will back arise. The qualities of the different doshas. Let's look at them in a little stereotypical way to make them very clear and obvious to you. But of course, for each and every body, they reflect and express in different parts in your body. So somebody can have a 70% constitution, let's say of air, which is very subtle, it's slim, it's light, but it can still have some very obvious fire or earth qualities showing off in their body, because this is how they externally express. But maybe their complete inner world and perception, way of thinking and emotional world is more connected to the air element. So looking at it stereotypically, earth or kapha dosha is everything that is solid. So it's governing the teeth, it's governing nails, it's governing bones, it's governing hair, it's governing strength. So very strong, lush hair, having strong skin, a very clear complexion, having a wide body frame. Kapha is something very stable. These people tend, who have a kapha constitution, to love stability. They are very easygoing for abundance. They attract materialism quite well because earth and manifestation is so present in the body. A downside of that is obesity. It's this kind of people, they just look at a cake and they already have it on their hips because it's so easy in collecting earth actually. So it's just a natural thing of your body where you have to learn what to eat in the right amount to have an ideal health for you. Because clear is, if each and everybody in this world would eat the very same things and do the very same exercises, we would still look very different. There would still be very broad people, and there would be still very slim and slender people, and there would be medium-framed people. This is just very natural to us. So these kapha constitutions, they have a wide body frame, they have a very slow digestion. It's in cold quality, earth and water is cold. So there's not much heat happening, which we need for the digestive fire. A downside could be greediness, strong attachment, insecurities. But at the end, it's a very nourishing dosha. It's the dosha of most long life, longevity, because it's the earth, and earth is the most stable. So these constitutions are most likely to live for a very long time. Earth is governing as well the respiratory system. And so, or it's not governing, it's settling down in the respiratory system. So these people are very often, though they're, for example, very fertile, because the reproductive system is made of earth and water mostly, They're very weak in the lung and in the respiratory system and the cardiovascular system, because this is governed by the air element. So bronchitis, having a lot of sinus infection, having a lot of coughing is often a disease that is coming quickly to in Kapha dosha. Also, earth tends to be healthy quite long, but once they got it, they tend to have chronic diseases, way more likely. And then the chronic diseases start settling down in the bone structure, they start settling down into autoimmune diseases, because, as I said, this part here is the weakest for the Kapha dosha. And here we also have the thymus gland. The thymus gland is the boss and the ruler of our immune system, where our T cells are created and all hormones which are necessary for a strong immune system. And so as this is the weakest part, autoimmune disease tend to arise way quicker because the center of the immune system is weakened. So chronic disease, autoimmune disease is more likely to happen for Kapha dosha. Even more important for Kapha, once they already get a little glimpse of it, there's something not going on, to really take rest and care, do a lot of ventilations, doing a lot of pranayama, drinking hot tea. Anything that's hot and nourishing is very good for them. As I said, it's a cold quality, it's dense, it's moist. So anything that is dry, light, is very good, and everything that's warm is very good for the Kapha dosha. Creamy, dense, moist is not good for them. It's even more aggravating it. Because Ayurveda works with the principle of opposites. If I have too much cold, I have to add heat in the appropriate amount, and then I have very pleasant warmth instead of one of the extremes. If I have dryness, I have to add moisturizing, and that's it. The best exercise for Kapha dosha is anything that gets it sweating. Anything that really releases the sweat. Because as I said, the digestive system is a little bit slow here. And so also the purification from toxins is in a quite slow process for Kapha dosha. So really getting yourself sweating, going to the sauna, doing strong Ashtanga or Power Vinyasa yoga is very good for these constitutions. And anything that's opening the chest and strengthening the chest and back. The other constitution we have, Pitadosha. Pitta is, as I said, the fire and water element. The fire and water element has some contradicting qualities, which makes it sometimes a little bit tough to balance appropriately. Because we have water, that's a cold element, but an adaptive element. Water is that element of all that takes on as most likely the shape of anything else, right? You pour it into a glass and it takes on the shape of the glass. You add your hand into that glass and the water makes space for your hand. So water is adaptive, it takes on any shape. It is cool, whereas fire is very hot and in its nature it is drying. But through this adding with the water, it is moisturizing. It's this humid, hot quality that we have. Pitta is the master of the digestive system. So Pitta, everything that has Pitta, has a very strong metabolism. It has a very strong way of digesting whatever we take in. This is why Pitta is also the governor of intelligence. Because what is intelligence? It's the ability, same as the digestion, to what you receive, to discern what quality is it. Is it good? Is it bad? Can I use it? Do I have to drop it? And then do so accordingly, either to ingest or to eliminate from your system. And this happens on a psychological level, but also on a physical level. And in between, of course, on an emotional level as well. The Pitta dosha is, as said, heat and moist, which is also our muscles. So these are the most muscular people that are out there. They have a lean body frame, they don't need much exercise and instantly have some muscles on their body and you can see some clear definitions. They're very easy in gaining weight, but also in losing weight. It's just basically whatever they put on their mind. They they quickly can accomplish. It tends to have a leader quality because, as I said, this intelligence and this quality of discernment is very clear. It's governing the eyes as well. So visualization is very strong for people within Pitta predominance. Pitta tends to go into inflammation problems. So the whole area of Pitta is the belly frame and the sides. And inflammation is something that's very prone for Pitta predominant personality types and body constitution types. Inflammation of any kind. It can be inflammation in the joints, it can be an inflammation of your nervous system, it can be acne, it can be an acid reflux, many of those things. It can be hypertension with your heart, it can be an over-aggravated nervous system. All this comes from an aggravated Pitta dosha. The season for Pitta dosha is the summertime. The season for the Kapha dosha is the springtime. So for Pitta, to balance Pitta can also be a little bit tricky because we need physical exercise. And Pitta is one of these people, as soon as they like something, they go 1,000,000% in. Like 100% is really not enough because they burn themselves out and overdo it. They give too much of their body, and then at the end, instead of having beneficial exercise, it's rather harming them. And as I said, there's a lot of being prone for injuries. So for Pitta dosha, it's good to find maybe even 2 exercises which are nicely balancing each other. One exercise that has great qualities of intelligence with complex sequencing, complex body movements and arrangements, like more advanced vinyasa yoga, for example, but also having a yin exercise in the evening, having some soft breathing, like balancing breathing, Shitali, the one with the tongue, everything that is cooling to the system. It's good to come grounding, doing forward folds for Pitta dosha is very good because this is cooling exercises. Pitta also really likes to open and stretch the sides to release heat from the liver and from the kidneys, but be careful not to go into overstimulation because it's something that Pitta loves. It's like it tends to go into addictive personalities as well. Such as Kapha has very attached personalities to anything, relationships, money, home, routines. Pitta is rather the addictive personality. Pitta should never skip a meal, never ever. It's very important for them to have 3 regular meals a day, because otherwise the digestive fire just blows up and kind of burns them from within. It's tricky because Pitta is the most accomplishing of all personalities. So they love diets, they love intermittent fasting because it gives them another challenge and another to-do, another restriction, another something on their very long to-do list they already have. Even more for them, it's very important to have 3 regular meals each and every day, but leave freedom in their structure because I said it's the vision, so it's very structuring and organized. Vata dosha, air and ether, is also very dry. It's mobility. It's cold, just as the wind is. It's very creative, but not in this structured, straight pushing forward way, rather in this way of many ideas coming in, but sometimes tricky to accomplish. They need a leader in order to procreate what the vision is showing them. Like all 3 personalities make a perfect team. You have the Vata with many creative ideas. You have the Pitta who can lead these ideas into a good working plan. And then you have the Kapha who is very happy to accomplish and to manifest all of these ideas. So the Vata is settling down, it's governing the respiratory system, but its weak part is settling down in the reproductive system. So infertility can be an aspect, lack of vitality, lack of being in the body in general, just being stuck in the mind is something that's happening to Vata dosha. And Vata dosha is that just makes everything mobile. It is with the Kapha and the Pitta very have the strong places where they reside, It's not that Vata is residing in the heart and lung, it's rather Vata is that quality that makes the heart beat and that makes the diaphragm contract and relax. That's the quality of the Vata there. Vata also tends to be very prone for osteoporosis and arthritis, anything that is degrading the body, cracking bones. Vata can have two ways how it's manifesting in the body. Sometimes they have a strong digestive system, and then that's the kind of people that can eat such big plates 5 times a day and they still don't gain weight. And then for others, they're very slim and slender, have very light hair, not much manifestation, as I said, in their body. And then there's some that even don't have much hunger, and they're very simple, with just 3 tiny meals every day, but it's enough for them. Vata has disease very quickly and also recovers very quickly from them if they take themselves the time. They can be energetic like that and then suddenly just pass out like that as well. They need very little sleep. It's okay for them. They don't need many routines, but it's good to add some that helps them to stay focused and organized as well. Good. There was a little introduction into the complexity of Ayurveda. There's so much more to learn. Vata, the season of Vata, is the autumn time, where there's a lot of wind happening, a lot of dryness happening, and the winter time as well. But this depends on the region where you live. Some regions have very dry winters and very cold. Others have very moist winters. Then this is a kapha quality. And some have a very dry autumn, some have a very rainy, moist autumn. Then this is a kapha quality. So look, is it moist or is it dry? Then it's either kapha or vata. Good exercises for vata dosha is everything that holds a strong focus on the movement itself. As said, vata is the governor of movement. So really paying attention to the transitions in between. Paying attention of these moments where we move from one spot to the other one. This is very healthy for Vata dosha. Also anything balancing, to learn to focus the mind, to come back deep even into the feet, strengthening the legs and opening the hips, to release the excess air that loves to settle down in the reproductive and in the hip area. So take it slow with the Vata. It's good to create heat, but most importantly, take it very slow and controlled in the movements to avoid any injury that might happen there. That was my introduction to the principles of Ayurveda, how they reflect in our body. There's so much more to learn out there. The whole day is structured and governed by different Ayurvedic principles. Your food, your routines, whatever is out there is made of the elements. So by learning more about that, we can learn to very naturally come more in ease and balance with our life. We learn to see what is beneficial in my life for me, what is not so beneficial. This I remove, and this will rise and strengthen, and just allow my own inner health to blossom from within. Thank you so much. Namaste.